Before we get into the Season 3 recap of Ted Lasso, if you need a Season 2 recap, just hit the top right-hand corner. It'll take you right to it. I also have a combined Season 1 and 2 recap, so if you've never watched the show before, just want a refresher, you can hit that as well. Season 3 picks up a couple of weeks before the season kicks off. Ted has to drop Henry off at the airport. Henry spent the majority of the summer with Ted, and now he has to go home, and it's got Ted pretty bummed out. He is still talking to Dr. Sharon, and those sessions do make him feel better. But what Dr. Sharon can't do is fix the preseason predictions. Everybody pretty much has the Greyhounds finishing dead last, which really upsets Rebecca. When Ted hears about these predictions, he doesn't really care. They're predictions, they're meaningless. But Rebecca is so focused on them, and mainly about the fact that they're picking West Ham to finish in the top 4. That's really what she's bugged out about. Her finishing last, Rupert finishing top 4, it's just not good for Rebecca's psyche. Rebecca wants to know how exactly they're going to beat Rupert and West Ham, and Leslie brings up, we probably should upgrade our roster a little bit. But Ted doesn't really think that's the issue. He says, I think we'll do just fine this season. But just fine isn't what Rebecca's into. She reminds him that he said that they were going to win the whole thing, and he completely forgot about that proclamation. The meeting with Rebecca has to end because Rebecca has to go have a meeting with Keely. Keely is running her own PR firm. She's a bad bitch, but she's also a single one as well. That's because Roy broke up with her. They had to break the news to Phoebe, and she took it better than Keely did, that's for sure. But to Roy, it was just a matter of their lives were too complicated, too busy. He's focused on being a coach. And he thinks he's developed a pretty good game plan on how best to play this season to not get relegated. When they finally go out to practice, though, for the first day, everyone's pretty distracted. Because the predictions aren't just bothering Rebecca, they're also bothering the team as well. Ted turns to Beard and says, I think we need a road trip. It's like one of those days you want to have class outside, which Roy points out they are outside, but he wants to take the group on a field trip. He tells everybody to file on the bus, and then he takes them to the sewer, which is very amusing to a couple of bystanders who snap photos of the Richmond team literally heading down to the sewers. They're all kind of wondering what they're doing there, and Ted says, me and Henry actually took a tour of this place because he got obsessed with the movie It. But this place was developed because they wanted to keep the crap separate from the streets. Yeah, there's a lot of poop down here, but there's also a lot of poop up there. And right now, all of your brains are London circa 1877. They're blocked up by other people's poop. You need to make an internal sewer system. Get a good flow going. And then connect to a teammate's tunnel. So if you're having a crisis of confidence, you can borrow some of Jamie's. If you're feeling down, maybe Danny can help you out. But if you do this successfully, you can let anything you don't need just flow right through. Like preseason predictions. While this message is great, what Ted is unaware of is the poop up on the streets. Mainly coming from West Ham. Nate has settled in, but he's still the same old self-conscious, timid, insecure Nate that he was at Richmond. One of the first things he does when he comes in is check Twitter to see what they're saying about him. The one person who tries to instill some confidence in him is Rupert. He calls Nate into his office so they can have a good laugh about the preseason predictions, mainly the fact that everyone's picking Richmond to finish last. Nate, though, needs to get ready for his first introductory press conference, one that Rebecca is watching to see what he's going to say. And Nate is terrified. The Wonder Kid is really at a loss for words. He definitely doesn't seem like someone you'd instill a lot of faith in. He realizes that he's bombing this thing, so he ducks under the desk to kind of collect himself. When he pops back up, he has that little fake bravado that he had back in Richmond when he confronted Ted. When a reporter brings up the fact that 2 years ago he was just the guy washing the clothes, he completely claps back at the guy. Another reporter asks what he thinks about Richmond, getting predicted to finish dead last, 20th in the league. To which Nate says, well, they're predicted to finish 20th in the league because there's not a 21st team. Which gets a good chuckle from the room, and Rupert loves it. But man, Rebecca, who's watching it in her office, she's fuming about it. All the reporters' phones start buzzing in the room. And when they look, they see the picture on Twitter that's gone viral of the entire Richmond team heading into the sewer. The one that was taken by the bystanders, it's tweeted out and it's gained some traction. So the press asks Nate what he thinks about this picture. And Nate says, it makes sense to me. I mean, they probably have to train in a sewer because their coach is so shitty. Nate looks over at Rupert when he says that, and Rupert has a big, crap-eating grin on his face. And it seems like Rupert has really become a father figure to Nate. Nate just clamoring for his approval. When the Richmond team return to Nelson Road, they see what Nate has said. And at first, a lot of the members of the team are infuriated. And Jamie points out, guys, it's just poop. Let it go. But one person who's not going to let it go is Rebecca. When she finds out Ted has returned, she demands a one-on-one with him. She's infuriated. She feels like Ted has embarrassed her club. He does realize how this could be a pretty bad look. Skipping training, going into a sewer. Yeah, the optics aren't great. She then asks if he's planning on addressing what Nate said about him. And Ted says, no, I'm not. Rebecca can't believe it. She tells him everyone's laughing at us. Rupert is laughing at me, Ted. And I am begging you, Ted. Please, fight back. But that's just not Ted. He goes down to address the media. And the first question the media does ask has nothing to do with Nate, but it has to do with those preseason predictions. Ted just says that they have 38 opportunities to prove those predictions wrong. He then gets a question from the Independent's replacement for Trent Krim, a guy named Marcus Adebayo. Marcus asks Ted if he has any response to what Nate said. And with Rebecca just a few feet away, Ted does the opposite of what she wanted. He says, I thought what Nate said was hilarious. I mean, he came and got us, but hey, that's Nate the Great for you. But he's the same way on the pitch. He'll find the tiniest weakness in a team and he'll attack it. That kid's a junkyard dog, and he's real smart. West Ham's really lucky to have him. I wish Nate nothing but the best of luck. But I guess I am a little surprised that's all he could come up with. I mean, especially against me. I mean, not one joke about me being a dumb American? Come on. He then starts dishing some of that Ted Lasso humor that has the entire room cracking up because it's just so damn corny. And while Rebecca was mad about Ted's response at first, she gets a text from Keeling saying, way to let Ted just be Ted. Because instead of firing back at Nate, Ted came out looking great in this situation. And it's something that the Twitter sphere certainly notices, because Twitter's abuzz with the fact that Ted has class and Nate doesn't. And when Nate sees that, he gets pretty downtrodden. It gets even worse for Nate when he gets a text from his mom saying, your dad saw what you said on the television and he's not happy. But one person who is thrilled is Rupert. He loved how Nate handled it, and he wants to gift him something. A brand new car for his Wonder Kid. So that should make Nate feel a little bit better. Ted wasn't gifted anything by his owner. He just headed home to FaceTime Henry, and he showed Henry the modifications that he made to Henry's Lego stadium that he was building over the summer. One question Henry has is, why do you have Nate off to the side? And Ted says, well, you know that. It's because Nate's not on the team anymore. And Henry says, yeah, but you can still be friends, right? And Ted says, yeah, buddy, you're right. We can still be friends. Ted, though, has been dealing with a little bit of an internal crisis. He's starting to wonder why he's still in London. He misses Henry. Henry spent a lot of time with him. He didn't want to see him go. And it's Henry who reminds him, Dad, you're there to win the whole thing. Henry then shows Ted his new toy. It's a Thanos Infinity Gauntlet. And when Ted asks, who gave that to you? Henry says, oh, Jake, Mommy's new friend. And now Ted has that headache to deal with. Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel and subscribing to my Patreon. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought it sucked. If you left a comment, I don't get back to you. I usually don't check the comments unless they're like a super comment. Also, if you don't see the next video up on the end screen, not to worry, it'll be up in a day or two.